Good morning. Welcome to Shields and Arrows, where we defend the faith, the family, and the fellowship. I am Pastor Mark Baze. I hope that you had a great weekend. Thank you all so much for tuning in today, as we are going to be discussing some matters of politics. Absolutely. We're going to be looking at some electoral mapping today. Things are kind of shaking up to be interesting. And then we're going to talk about the topic of the show, which it does sound kind of strange, why contextual Bible study needs to be attacked. I'll explain myself in a moment, but let's see here. A few updates, though, before we get into the show. We do have our latest Sunday school lesson uploaded onto YouTube. Still trying to work out some of the kinks with Worshipify, so I'm behind on that. I need to talk to Nathan. But let me see here. If we go over to our YouTube channel, this is our YouTube channel right here. There it is, The Last Days, the All-Millennial View. So we are really trying to be comprehensive, going into detail on some things to where by the time a person watches that series, the objective is for you to have a very good, well-rounded understanding of eschatology, theological doctrine, and the views that I hold, and why I don't hold to these views, like post-millennialism, amillennialism. And we also plan to give you a pretty decent mapping of the book of Revelation by the time it's all said and done. It's not going to be verse by verse. I don't have time to do that. But to break Revelation down for you to where you can understand it. That way, when you do go to study it, you'll have a good guideline, an outline, if you will, for all of that. So please jump on there and watch that. We'll get the Sunday sermon as well completed and uploaded for you. We have just wrapped up our Misapplied series, questioning doctrine derived from Bible stories. And hopefully you've gotten some really good stuff out of that series. We've talked and hit on some very important matters. Not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday we'll get back into our Philippians verse by verse. I say that, we may actually have a session on Philippians this week. It just kind of depends. So I'll keep you updated on all that. And let's see here. Now that we have all of that updated and all of you are jumping on, let's talk about, first of all, Texas has got to take action, okay? This may sound like it's coming out of the blue. There's not really any headlines about Texas right now. Consider what my words are. This is a forewarning, and in 5 years, we're all going to be looking back on episode 134 of Shields and Arrows and say, I wish Texas would have listened to Mark then. Here's the truth. Nothing at all, nothing is going to change, okay? When it comes to the situation on the border, the federal government is going to do absolutely zero things. Now, if Trump gets in charge, maybe he can do something. We do know that the deep state runs very deep, however, and the powers that be are going to do everything they can to stop him and get in his way. Here's what's going to have to happen. And the reason why I'm calling out Texas is because they're the primary ones that are being affected by this, but it affects everybody else. Texas, you have to man up. You need to completely get the federal government out of there. Get them off the border. They are doing nothing of good for us. Take command, all right? Take charge, lock it down. Lock the border down, all right? No more people crossing that border unless it is a official business, shipping industry, you name it. Enough with the migrants getting across the border. Texas, you have the money. Your GDP is larger than most countries in the world. You can build a wall and secure that border. You can do it. Do it right now. Now, there'll be some say, no, the federal government's not going to let them do that. They're going to put a stop to it. Here's the great thing. Ready? Texas, tell them or what? If the federal government tells you to stop, you say or what? If you want to create something that could maybe help the election a little bit, put Biden in the position where he has to decide if he is going to back off and let you shut down the border or actually try to use the federal government against you. Texas, do it. Make them. Tell them, make my day. All right? You all like to fly your flag, Texas, with the cannon saying, come and take it. It's time to put your money where your mouth is. Do it right now. Do it today. Governor Greg Abbott, right now, say, federal government, you can go home now because we're taking over entirely. We're no more of this we're going to do our thing and then you're going to do your thing. No more. It's done. It's over. Texas is now in charge. Lock the border down. Make them go through Arizona. Make it be Arizona's problem, and then Arizona's had enough, and they'll shut it down, and then they'll just flood California, right? Because California's not going to do a thing about it. We are going to have to put a stop to it. It's going to have to end. At some point, it is going to have to stop, and it needs to stop right now. Make the federal government do something about it. That's what you got to do. Make them do something about it. If they say, don't do it, or we're going to do X, Y, Z, tell them you won't do it. And also, Texas, you're not going to be alone because you know who's going to have your back. Oklahoma's going to have your back. Florida's going to have your back. There'll be some other states eventually come along that'll probably help you. Maybe South Dakota will support you as well. And then some others, once they get some backbone. There's some of the other states are a little bit more weaker spined, right? It'll take a while to get states like maybe Missouri and Arkansas, some of them to be willing to step up. But eventually you might be able to do it. But Texas, you won't be alone. This may all sound excessive right now, and it almost sounds like it's coming out of the blue. Yeah, we've been complaining about the border, but now we're calling Texas to action. It's better to do it now because I'm telling you, in 5 years, after potentially another administration of Kamala Harris cackling her way as the border is wide open, and the next thing you know, okay, all the farms and ranches in your small town, because it does not affect the big cities. It does affect them, but it doesn't just affect the big cities. Your small town is going to be divided up into little trailer houses, and you are going to have a bunch of military-age males living in your town, all right? That's what's going to happen. And they love to pretend like it's the sweet little families with their little kids. That's not what we're seeing across the border. That is not the majority of migrants coming across. These are people that are running drugs. They are engaging in human trafficking. These are not good people. We have dead little girls in our country that would testify to that, okay? Texas, do it right now, okay? I think that we all need to start at this point, from now on, making that a weekly thing. Demand that Texas get the federal government out of there and take charge and shut it down. Shut it down. Texas, shut it down. Maybe that can be our hashtag sign. That can be the slogan. It's got to happen, and who else to do it but Texas? You always say that you're the Lone Star State, nobody messes with Texas. Oh, yes, they have. The federal government has been messing with you for a long time. All right? The cartels, the human traffickers, you name it, they have been messing with you for a long time. Texas, you're a shadow of your former self. You once upon a time took on an entire country on your own. What happened to the Alamo? Do you remember it? You need to batten down the hatches, build the wall yourself, and if the government tries to stop you, the federal government, say, or what? All right, or what? Look at them wearing your big Texas 10-gallon hat and your cowboy boots and tell them you aren't going to do anything about it. And if you do, it's going to cost you the election. That's what you need to do. You need to do it right now. So we're going to see what's going to happen as we move forward here, if Texas is going to have the courage to do so, but we need to start demanding it of them. Texans, you need to demand it of yourselves. I know we got some Texans on here. Start making a little bit of rowdy noise down there. We got to get the border shut down. We've got to get the border secure. Okay, let's move on and talk about the current state of the presidential race. Things are locking up pretty tightly. Nationally, maybe Kamala Harris has a slight lead. That's just because all of the blue-haired feminists in California, New York, and some of the other coastline states are all excited. So it is going to tighten up some. She is going to name Josh Shapiro as her running mate tomorrow in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is looking like it may not be a possibility at this point. We're going to find out. Trump may still be able to win it, but I'm not counting on Pennsylvania. It is going to be a very tight race. I do not think, partly because of the enthusiasm that they have for Kamala Harris, but also just the fact that, the Democrats are going to be controlling the ballot boxes and whatnot. Trump is not going to win the popular vote, okay? Anybody who was kind of high on their own supply believing that is not true, okay? We are past the days right now of a Republican ever winning the popular vote. I'm very confident at this time that due to enthusiasm amongst the Democrats, but also the shenanigans that go on when Democrats are in charge of voting stations and whatnot, there will not be a Republican win the popular vote. That means it's going to come down to the states. So I do have an electoral map that I have been working on, and let's take a look at that right here. Where is our map at? Okay, so first of all, let's actually look at this. This is actually from Washington Post right now, and this is the major battleground states, the 7 battleground states. Here you go. So this is as of this morning. You have Pennsylvania in a dead tie. When Harris announces Josh Shapiro as her running mate, it's probably going to drop to Harris at that point. Wisconsin is going to Harris as well. Okay, so Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, those are being led by Harris. Trump is still up +2 in Michigan, and Harris enjoyed a +1.3 bump with Michigan. I am not convinced of some of the polls that's showing that Harris is way up in Michigan. We'll see, but this is once again coming from the Washington Post. So Trump still has a possibility to win Michigan. Nevada, Trump up +4. North Carolina, Trump +4. Arizona, Trump +4. Georgia, Trump +5. Now, Trump did come down pretty hard on the governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp. I don't know if that's going to hurt him very bad, or can Trump just go ahead and still win it, or is Harris going to be able to pull more due to demographics? We're going to find out. Let's consider this presidential map really quickly. Here is the one that I have made for you. This is, I think, a realistic map for Trump to win. Sorry for all these ads. I don't know if I can exit out of these and get these out of our way, but maybe I can zoom in a little bit. So here's the map for Trump to be able to pull it off, okay? I do not think that Trump is going to win Pennsylvania. Okay, I just do not think he's going to win it. Therefore, I have Pennsylvania going to Harris. I do believe that Trump is going to be able to win North Carolina. At this time, I think Trump can win Georgia. We're going to see if there's any fallout from some of Trump's comments on Brian Kemp at his rally. I have Trump losing in Arizona. Arizona, I know that it right now looks solid for Trump. There are a lot of liberals that live in Arizona. Nevada, I do have Trump winning that one. And then I have him dropping Minnesota and Wisconsin, but I have him winning Michigan. This race is going to come down to Michigan, I think. This is my prediction. Politics is unpredictable, so you can always predict the unpredictable. Maybe it comes down to Georgia or something like that. Kind of came down to Georgia last time. We'll see how that goes. But I think right now, as it stands, Michigan is the deciding factor. If Trump wins Michigan, he wins the race. That is him dropping Arizona and Pennsylvania, okay? That's 2 states that Trump, in theory, has a play on, but let's say he loses it. If Trump wins Michigan, and also there's a couple of other strange things that could happen. Like, for example, if, let's say that Trump does pick up Arizona, and he drops Georgia, okay, that would be obviously a very narrow miss, but then maybe he could still pick up Pennsylvania. There are some options for him, but what I'm predicting, you cannot count on Arizona. He does need Georgia. He needs Michigan. That is my current presidential map. Now, is it possible that Trump wins by more? I think if Trump's going to win, I really am at this point, I'm writing Pennsylvania off for Trump. I just don't see the pathway. I think Trump has a good chance to win Michigan. I think best case scenario right now, here's what my predictions are. Obviously, take it with a grain of salt. I think this is about best case scenario. I think Trump picks up Arizona. and he wins by 283 electoral votes. We're assuming that Nebraska, they have a blue district, and, Maine gets that one. Those kind of maybe cancel each other out in the long run, so it doesn't really matter. But I don't have Arizona being a strong one. I have it leaning. I have Georgia leaning, North Carolina leaning. So that is going to be my prediction for how things are going to play out right now. We're going to see if Kamala Harris continues to surge. I think that her bump is slowing. Now, Trump could always do something to hurt himself. He definitely said a lot of things at the rally that he did in Georgia, but he didn't say a lot of things to hurt him too badly. He may drop a little bit when Harris announces Josh Shapiro as her VP candidate, because it's more attention to her. It may bump her up. It's going to be a long grind the whole way. I think that this is going to be down to the wire. It's going to be a very tight race. I'll be curious to see what your thoughts are. If you think that the map that I have is accurate, if you think that Trump is, in fact, going to drop Pennsylvania. I am just telling you, do not bank on Trump winning Pennsylvania to win this election. Now, things could be strange. You could consider maybe the possibility that, let's say, he does take Pennsylvania, but then drops Michigan. Obviously, that's still enough for him to win. It's going to be a very narrow victory. That's another possibility. But with Pennsylvania going to... With Josh Shapiro going to be Kamala Harris's running mate, I just don't feel confident. You could put it that way. And this is another possibility we could see right here. You could see all four being lost, and then, the Democrats having a narrow win. But as of right now, going back to the original, this is what I have. A very, very narrow victory for the Republicans, 272, and Democrats, 266. So give me your thoughts. Do you think that I need to update it? Do you think that my predictions are accurate, or should we maybe revise it? But as of right now, that's how I see things sitting. It's going to be very smart for Kamala Harris to pick Josh Shapiro as her VP. The Democrats desperately want to win. Do not underestimate their desire to want to win. Trump picked Vance when he was feeling very confident. I'm not saying that J.D. Vance is a bad candidate, but he definitely is going to draw more fire than if he would have went with somebody like a Tim Scott, or if he'd have went with somebody like not Gavin Newsom, Glenn Youngkin. And we're just going to see. It's going to be a narrow-fought race. The thing about Trump is most people have their opinion of it. I think it does come down to Democrat turnout. If the Democrats turn out like they do, and they manage to get all the ballots names changed from Joe Biden to Kamala Harris early, then we'll very possibly see a President Harris. But if the turnout remains relatively moderate for the Democrats, we may be able to see Trump pull this thing off. And hopefully if he wins, he goes to business. He, first of all, gets the border locked down. I think that's probably what we all want to see primarily. He is then going to drill, baby, drill, and you're going to start to see oil prices falling. We're going to be less dependent upon other nations for all of those matters. Also, other nations are going to stop being dependent upon Russia and different countries to get oil. Then we'll probably enjoy, because fuel goes down, cost of shipping and whatnot is not going to be as severe. We're going to see prices in the grocery store go down. That'll make everybody happy. And he probably will start being a lot stronger on foreign affairs, so maybe we'll see an end to the Israel-Hamas war, as well as maybe even the Russia-Ukraine war. That's what we stand to gain. If Kamala Harris is president, you are going to continue to have the green, not the Green New Deal, because they didn't actually pass it, but the principles of the Green New Deal continue to be pushed. Therefore, oil and gas is going to stay high until when an election comes around. And we're going to continue to be weak on supporting Israel, so the Israel-Hamas conflict is going to continue to drag on and on. Iran is not going to have any pressure. They're just going to continue to grow and increase in power, eventually probably get a tactical nuke, and then send us into World War III. The prices at the grocery store aren't going to get any better. We're probably going to continue to see more DEI being pushed in our military, which is going to weaken our military, which is not a very good thing at all. We want our military to be full of strong, tough guys. Right now, the truth is, Your soldiers, the warriors that we have been training up, are not in the military anymore, okay? They come from the Southeast, some of the Southwest. They are country boys. They're unfortunately the most evil type of person of all time, which is a white male, and they're not interested. They don't want to be under a commander-in-chief who despises them, who forces diversity, equity, and inclusion down on top of them. They do not feel motivated to go and fight for an army who continues to lower their standards because we need to have just as many women on the front lines as we do men. The military is very, very weak right now. Our only thing, our saving grace, is our technology, but then again, we're going to see how that goes because it seems like we're getting all the more incompetent. Things are not going well, and people that want to think, I don't know what Kamala Harris brings to the table. The only thing that she has ever pitched to the Democrats, I wish the Democrats would just listen to her platform, because the only thing that she has actually pitched to them is, we are going to have more drag queens, we are going to let you kill your babies, and we want to take guns away. That's like her big thing. That's what she's promoting. She's also trying to promote as this tough on crime person. She was a prosecutor taking care of criminals. But don't we recall when she was bailing out rioters who were burning down the cities in the name of Black Lives Matter and George Floyd? If you could just please see past your hatred for Donald Trump, your hatred for conservatism, and your blindness for the Democratic Party, you would actually realize that she is offering nothing to us. We're going to be in the exact same shape, if not worse, than we are right now. Do you really feel like, let's leave COVID out of it because COVID completely messed up the entire system and manipulated everything. Do you really feel like your wallet is thicker right now than it was in 2019? Do you feel like the global conflict, the temperature around the world, is better now than what it was in 2019? Comparing the situation both at home and abroad in the next to last year, the third year of Trump's presidency, compared to what we have right now with Joe Biden, it is absolutely willful ignorance to pretend as if Kamala Harris has anything that she is proposing. I just read Toby's comment. We'll see if I can survive. YouTube doesn't like it if you start saying too many things that are true. So right now, once again, that's my position on how things are playing out. It's going to be anybody's race. The way that anybody that is a Trump supporter was feeling back in June or early July, it's over, it's done, okay? Trump running away with this thing, it's not the facts on the ground. I'm not saying he can't win, but what I'm saying is the Democratic machine is churning. It is running strong. The media is going to do everything they can. CBS News is going to be running all of their puff pieces on Kamala Harris. They're going to only hammer Trump. They're not going to ask her any hard questions. She is going to enjoy the pampered treatment the whole time. And that is always how it goes, which is why the people never do know what's going on unless they actually pay attention for themselves. That's the issue. When I was in college, I worked at a bank, and the bank half the time had CBS or CNN on. That is what the average person does not really care. They don't pay enough attention. Just like let's just compare this to churches and Bible students. The average Bible student doesn't really pay that much attention. The average churchgoer, they just show up, they listen to the sermon, they sing the songs, they may read a couple verses, they may have a devotion that they'll read during the week, and that's about it. The only Bible information they really get is just in passing when they go to a church, or maybe they're driving down the road and they're flipping through the stations and happen to just stop on a sermon for a little bit. And of course, who knows, that sermon may not be any good. The average person, it's kind of the same way. They go through life not really paying that much attention. And what do? They flip on the news maybe once every now and then, or they go to the bank and they look at CNN, and what do they see? The headlines. Trump bashes Kamala Harris. because she is a woman. Trump makes sexist remarks. Trump makes racist remarks. Then half the time they see Kamala Harris defending her excellent record. That's all it says. Kamala Harris remaining resolved in the face of hate. That is the kind of stuff that they see. These people do not pay enough attention. That's why they're so fickle. That's why they're so easily able to be changed. And unfortunately, there is enough people, there's a demographic, a group of people, not demographic, but several demographics, I guess. Demographics can span ages or whatever. But there's a segment of the voter bloc that does care enough to vote, but doesn't care enough to necessarily pay that much attention. So their decision is made by the headlines that they're seeing, which is why you can go from Trump running away with it in July, early July against Joe Biden, all the momentum being with him, fight, 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 the classic photo, and now everybody's forgotten it, and they think that Kamala Harris is now the answer, and she's going to fight for women's rights and fight for minority rights, and Trump's just gone back to being a bad racist person, and what? Somebody tried to kill him? When did that happen? We forgot about that. The average person doesn't pay enough attention. Not enough people care. So you've got to be vocal about it. You've got to mention it. You've got to acknowledge that the media is absolutely a pawn of the Democrats. And this whole idea of Trump trying to run away from a debate with Harris is absolutely absurd. He never agreed to debate Harris on, ABC on September 10th? He never agreed to that. He agreed to debate Joe Biden. Kamala Harris doesn't get to just step in Joe Biden's shoes. That's not how it works. When you agree to debate a person on a very unique, specific occasion, you're agreeing to debate that specific person at that specific time and occasion. Kamala Harris whining that Trump doesn't want to debate her then, she's inviting herself to a party where she never received an invitation. She is trying to RSVP to one that no one invited her to. So the media is going to ignore that, and they're going to continue to try to spin the story however they want. Okay, now let's see. I want to talk a little bit about the title of today's show. So the title of today's show, if you are looking, why we need contextual Bible study to be attacked. First of all, we have been discussing on this show, as well as in other times and places, what terms do we use to try to describe ourselves? There's certain phrases that just kind of turn people off. And that's why, for example, like Calvinists don't want to use their name title because they know it kind of shuts down some conversation for them and they're kind of getting smarter, I guess. But right division, obviously, is a term that we're absolutely fine with. We build it upon Scripture. Instead of naming it after Calvinism, some theologian, John Calvin, we hold to rightly dividing the word of truth. Yet at the same time, we know that there's some people who have come to associate that with bad connotations, which I don't really care. Also, mid-acts dispensationalism, that's a phrase that not everybody likes. So let's just, for today's show, let's just leave it as contextual Bible study. That way, in the title, people may click on it and get to watching a little bit. We talked about last week how the media has come in full force to attack Donald Trump. And the reason why they're in full force attacking Donald Trump is because they are very nervous that he might actually win. That's why they're working so hard to treat Kamala Harris with kid gloves and try to grill Trump for all it's worth. That's what they're trying to do. Which makes Trump look much more tough than Kamala Harris because she's hiding away, enjoying the simple rallies that she does with pop stars that dance provocatively and whatnot. But the reason why they're attacking Trump is because he does pose a serious threat to their order. The day that I can get on Christianity Today, the Gospel Coalition, any of those major websites, the day that I can get on there, and there's an article front center that says why the contextual Bible study movement is dangerous, or maybe they say why right division is dangerous or why mid-acts dispensationalism is dangerous. I'm going to know that we are winning and succeeding. Unfortunately, as of right now, if you get on any of these, websites, you don't see anybody addressing dispensationalism. There was a little bit of an uptick when John Rich came out and spoke against Darby, and he really spoke about things he didn't know or understand. He spoke in ignorance. But you don't see anybody addressing that. We need to get to the point where we are making enough noise, we're rattling enough cages that somebody like, I don't know, the pastor of First Baptist Dallas, I don't even know who that is right now. I'm sure Dr. White probably does. One thing y'all will learn about me is I don't really pay that much attention to the up and ups around. I probably need to pay more attention to the up and ups, but I'm more focused on just trying to teach the Bible for you. But the day that First Baptist Dallas pastor gets up and denounces contextual Bible study as a heretical doctrine is the day that I know I am doing something right. I hope that there is a day that Christianity Today, the Gospel Coalition, knows my name. They know who Mark Baze is, and they don't like him. Because the day that they know who I am, or they know who Dr. Randy White is, or some of the others kind of that are in our camp, the day that they do that, and there's a hit piece on us, is the day that I know that we are gaining ground. When you are being attacked, it is a sign that you are succeeding. You don't punch down against somebody who is not a threat to you. In politics, we're not worried about them. It's been a while since we've talked about Mitt Romney or Liz Cheney. We haven't talked about them lately because they're not a factor right now. We're not worried about them. They were a thorn in our side in the days of railing against Trump, being squishy conservatives, if you will, more just squishy liberals. But we're not worried about them. Nobody's worried about what Liz Cheney thinks. For one, she got voted out, but we don't care because they're not a factor. They're not a problem for us. They're not in our way. We're not worried in today's time. We're not worried about Germany, right? Once upon a time, you had to worry about Germany or you had to worry about Japan. We're not worried about them right now. Okay? They're not a factor. All right? We beat them. They've shaped up for right now. In the famous words of Norm Macdonald, though, keep your eyes on Germany. But they're not a threat. They're not an issue right now. So we don't talk about them. But guess who we do talk about? We talk about potential problems for us. We talk about the Democratic Party. We talk about Russia. We talk about China. We talk about these things. We talk about the border. Because that's our opposition. That's what we're dealing with. The Democratic Party, they have the things they talk about. They're worried about the Republicans. They're worried about the pro-life movement. They're worried about guns. They're worried about parents raising their children in a Christian home and not subjecting them to the gender ideology that public schools want to teach them. Thankfully, we have some public schools in Oklahoma that still have half a brain. Some good superintendents. My dad's one of them. But they talk about the things they're worried about. Christians today, let's just talk about us. Contextual Bible students, right dividers. We talk about problems that we're facing. Our problem, we have problems with evangelicalism because they have completely abandoned Bible study for the sake of some non-denominational, feel-good, emotional, manipulative services in which the songs are modern, they have terrible theology, and then the preacher gets up there dressing like a frat boy, wearing too tight of jeans, and he's got a slick haircut, and he just gets up there and talks about how you can be a victorious Christian today by loving Jesus and loving others. And that's about as deep as their sermons go. That's a problem because that's what people expect. And they're just told they get all this terrible theology because they pick verses out of the Bible at random, and then they just teach sermons out of it. Or we're dealing with Calvinists who don't understand rightly dividing the word of truth. And the Calvinists, for some reason, have a stronghold, a grip on, whether it's the SBC or other churches, denominations, you name it. Those are our problems, and we're having to fight it. We're having to address it. There's not a month that goes by that I don't have to address some matter of Calvinism or evangelicalism, nor a lot of times it's not even a week that goes by. We need to be that thorn in their side. We need to get to the point where the Calvinists are having to deal with us on a regular basis. I want them to say, all right, here I go again. I've got to address this thing that Mark Baze said on his show Shields and Arrows, refuting Calvinism. Well, let me tell you why he's wrong. And he'll try to give his excuse of why I'm wrong. And that's okay. I want there to be YouTube videos. I hope that I can get on there one day, and I hope I can find YouTube videos going against the things that I teach on the show. Because the day that I will find something on the show, the day that I find something on the internet that is going against this show, I know that I'm being successful. The Calvinists know they're being successful because they're this massive movement. There's this massive movement, and there's a lot of videos on YouTube refuting Calvinism. That's the point we've got to get to. We got to get to our contextual Bible study. The truth is, and I like the term contextual Bible study because that's all we're doing. It's just good, solid Bible study. We're paying attention to who's writing, who they're writing to, what are they saying, what's the context. But if we really strive to use that term, if we get the word out and cause enough of a ruckus, contextual Bible study is going to become a bad word too. And that's how you know that you are doing some good. So I'm hoping that as we progress, as this continues, you're going to see more opposition. You're going to start seeing articles against why it is impossible that Paul had a different message. Please, I wish so bad that somebody would start a daily show where they just try to attack right division. Because the day that somebody makes a daily show trying to attack right division is the day that I know that we are getting somewhere. Because they feel the need to try to stand against us, to stop us. I will quote the one and only H.G. Wells in War of the Worlds. I read that book when I was in high school, and the main character comes across an abandoned house. He's living there, and there's also a man that's hiding out in it as well. And the main character asks, when does he think the war will end, or how is this war going? Because in the whole premise of the War of the Worlds, Martians come to Earth and they're invading and attacking. The character that's staying in the house says to him, "War? This is not a war. This is no more of a war than there's a war between man and maggots. It's an extermination." Unfortunately, the evangelical Christian movement today, they don't see this as a war of ideas and doctrine. They do not consider us a threat. That's why they're not worried about us. Because right now they see it as a war. It's not a war. It's man versus maggots. It's an extermination. And they've done pretty well on that. I'm not saying that every KJV fundamental church was a right dividing church, but how many of those are still standing? Once upon a time, churches used to have a strong defense on Bible translation. At the very least, they would use a New King James, maybe. But now it's anything goes. Free for all. Use whatever you want. Used to, the word dispensation wasn't a bad word. It was some common language that was used. And now, many of those churches have been exterminated. Now churches don't care what Bible translation is being used. They don't care about matters of doctrine or eschatology. Churches are just hollowed out social events, and they sing about how much they love Jesus, and then they get up and speak from whatever random translation, whichever one the preacher feels like using that day. Or the Holy Roman Empire rules from its grave while all these Protestant denominations continue to teach their theology, which is nothing more than Catholic light. Diet papacy. And they're not worried about us. There needs to be an actual fight. How do we do that? We got to make enough noise. We got to make enough following. We need to get enough people watching to where it's unavoidable. And I say we. Obviously, I hope my show grows. I'm trying to do ministry full time, trying to make this the way that I support my family. It's what I care about. It's what I'm passionate about. So obviously, if I have people following me, supporting my ministry, that's great. I would certainly appreciate it. I'm never going to turn your support down. But I want others to grow as well. Dr. White, I hope that his ministry continues to grow and increase. And I hope that others that are aligned with us, at least to a degree, in our camp, that they continue to do well and they continue to grow. They get a following. And that's one way. We need to win in the churches. I know that there's some here that have kind of given up on the idea of a congregation of a church, and I understand your frustration. I understand that it feels hopeless. But I think the congregating together is a biblical thing. I feel like there's a good argument for it. If our churches can succeed, that also makes a statement. We've got to gain ground. It's going to be a long, slow trudge ahead. There's been many who have been doing this a lot longer than I have. I haven't reached a full year yet in this ministry format. Almost a year ago to this day, I started my email list, and many of you that I'm looking at that are on here today, some of you are on there. And I haven't done it lately just because now most people have figured out that I do my daily show, and you get a lot of updates from me this way. But this ministry is not even through its first full year yet in this format. I'm only on 134 episodes of today's show. But we got to keep plugging away, and we've got to get to the point where one of these days you are going to see on some major pastor's website him addressing contextual Bible study, right division, and explaining the dangers of it, the threat that it poses. Just reading some of your comments today. I'm going to say hi to you. It's Monday. That's about the extent of what I've got. Maybe I can go for another 15 minutes or so. But because not every day for me is Q&A day, sometimes I don't always have a content for a full show. I'll remind you, sometimes the Daily Wire, they have a pretty successful format, and they have a show similar to like what our format is here today. They may only go for, sometimes their hour-long show is 50 minutes. It's rarely an hour. So normally we actually go longer than what they do. But on Monday, let's just do a Howdy Monday, right? And let's say hi to everybody that took the time to hop on now that I've gotten through my major talking points. Myra's on today. Great to have you. Ken, appreciate you. Saying hi to, let's see here, Nancy, John, Scott's on. Okami, great to have you. I hope I'm saying your name right. Let's see, Toby's on. Great to have you. Kristen hopped on for just a moment. Kristen's got a new job now, so she's going to be working during the show. Rick's here. Good to have you on, Rick. Appreciate you. We got 1984 here. By the way, Chuck came into our church and visited us yesterday. It was a really good time. I appreciated him making it out. Got Jay on today as well. Chuck asked me a question. Hey, Mark, have you ordered a copy of Shepherds for Sale? I hope you can, and then I hope you rail against the SBC and their acceptance of George Soros money and the Baptist helping the border invasion. I haven't ordered it yet, but I want to. I want to read that, and I will. That's one of those things I almost started to talk about it today, the Shepherds for Sale. I want to kind of see what more information comes out. I want to read the book first and see, but it is extremely concerning, and it makes a lot of sense to me. If you consider, just consider, for example, some of the secrecy behind like McLean Bible College, David Platt's church, and them hiding the books. I think maybe originally the concern was, well, maybe is some of that money extra, some of the extra money going to SBC and they're not being honest about it. But perhaps it's way more sinister than that. We'll find out. We're going to keep an eye on all that. But the SBC, I don't know. I feel like they're in their waning days. I don't know how much longer they're going to last. And that I'm okay with that. Scott says, Mark, just wants to say your millennial studies are very good, enjoying them. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate it. It's a really good study. It's going to be kind of a lengthy one because there's so much to cover, and we're going to try to do a really good job. We're going to try to make sure it's going to be concise, so to the point, nuts and bolts, but also thorough at the same time to where you have the information that you need in it. So I do appreciate it. Thank you for that, Scott. And we'll get our website updated as well. I don't know how many of you use the website necessarily, but it's up there. That way you have access to it. So all you Texans on here today, be sure to start holding your state's feet to the fire on shutting down this border. It's a problem. It's a real problem. Here you go. I'll let me see. Let me do this. Maybe I can share something with you. Give me just a moment while I try to let y'all see something. I'm going to try to, I got to airdrop this, but I wanted to show y'all my fun afternoon that I had with my boy to cheer you up a little bit. If you need a pick-me-up on a Monday. All right, let's see here. So yesterday we, after church, because we had evening service yesterday, but it was just a business meeting. Eventually we're going to be showing you our Wednesday night services as well. But there you go. Me and my boy, we hopped on the Husqvarna TE300 two-stroke to go check on some cows, and had a good time. He likes to ride with me. That's my oldest right there. So hopefully, we'll see. Maybe he's smarter than his dad and goes into something that makes a bunch of money. But hopefully he'll be a good right divider, and you'll at least have somebody. Maybe he can part-time do some good Bible study for us. But I'll work on him. But right now, I'm just trying to make sure he doesn't go to jail. But yeah, it was a good time though. I'm thankful that I get the opportunity to live where I live and get to do those things. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I need to get some. I'm going to get those taken care of. Chuck looked at the cows and said, yeah, you got to take care of those flies. The flies are bad right now. Everything's so dry. All right. Well, that brings us to an end of today's show. Got through all my talking points. Tomorrow, we're going to get to some more stuff. We'll be getting ready for Kamala Harris's VP announcement. Just get ready. This week is going to be a very good week for Kamala Harris, okay? Because she's going to announce her VP. Everybody's on the media is going to just say, oh, Josh Shapiro's the best thing in the world. Pennsylvania's probably going to go off the table for Trump. especially if they do some shenanigans and whatnot in Philadelphia. So this is the play. That's where things are. Things are very unpredictable. Who knows what could happen? Things could get very crazy. It could get sideways. Trump may, who knows? He could surge randomly, or Kamala Harris could surge randomly. But right now, what I'm saying is things are going to be very, very neck and neck all the way up till the end. And we're going to find out how that goes, and we're going to track it the whole way with shields and arrows. We may even do on election night, we may even just do a live stream. We may just do kind of a live feed for the whole thing if you are interested in that. And we'll see about that. That may be kind of fun. Election special. Maybe we'll get some guests on. Maybe we can talk Dr. Randy White into joining us for a little bit to do some of that. All right, so let's see here. Let me get got to get the special music ready to play. And here we go. All right, appreciate each and every one of you. Stay tuned. We're going to get our sermon uploaded. That way you can watch it, stay up to date on all of that. I appreciate each and every one of you, and just continuing to be here for this ministry, supporting it, whether that is financially, whether it is just praying for me, telling people about it. I cannot thank you enough. We're going to continue to stand firm for the faith. So with that, thank you all so much.